Hey guys, Ben with No Accent Callers here, and we're going to be going over the 10 best motivated seller lists that are proven by AI. So, most people actually don't know this, but fun fact, each property point, each record, not lead, a lead is a motivated seller who has asking price, timeline, motivation, condition of property, but each record, so the homeowners that we call, the homeowners that we text, the homeowners that we mail, they each have 1,700 data points. And leveraging AI, leveraging machine learning, we can use this data to figure out what lists have the highest likelihood of selling. Not probability, not 40% likelihood that they're going to sell, but 40% higher chance that compared to, let's say, a control piece of data that they're going to want to sell. So if we scroll down right here, there are so many different types of data points that we can get. So these are example of some of the advanced mortgage ones. You guys all know we can get home price, we can get when it's sold, all of the basic ones, but with good data, you can get all of these things. Mortgage amount, loan servicer, loan number, the debt to income ratio, mortgage history. We could also get really specific on population demographics, the median household income, per capita income. We have obviously household characteristics. We have the neighborhood characteristics, which is super important when you were targeting which type of market. You got crime rate, crime trend. We also have life events, recent marriage. We have financial indicators, credit score, bankruptcy history, consumer behavior, all of those right here. And if we go back up to here, that based on these data points and using machine learning, we can find out which ones have a higher likelihood of selling, not probability. And why is this so important? For when we do our outbound, our cold call, our SMS, our direct mail, this edge right here is going to give us a 1, 2, 3% higher chance of finding somebody who wants to sell. And we're doing crazy amounts of volume. Let's say you have 100 cold callers. Let's say you're sending out 100K mail of worth a month or text. It's going to be the difference between not 1, 2, but hundreds of leads, which leads to plenty of deals and a lot of assignment fees. So let's get into the 10 best list right here. Number 1, we have foreclosure plus tax delinquency. And the data says that properties with a foreclosure notice and a tax delinquency have a 300 to 400% higher probability of selling before auction compared to properties with a single lien. And this is because of legal actions, put a non-negotiable timeline, and eliminate the owner's ability to simply wait out one of the problems. And when we go do our cold calling, when we go do our text, when we go do our mail, we can leverage this to our advantage. There is a pure psychological urgency right there. There is a compressed timeline. There is a financial squeeze, which is going to give us the highest probability of them wanting to sell. Next, we have absentee owner plus code violations. And leveraging municipal data shows that 70% of properties with multiple unresolved code violations, they're actually owned by absentee landlords, people who don't give a fuck about their property anymore. And because of the lack of physical presence, it leads to neglect. And this motivation to sell comes from escalating fines, the logistical nightmare of managing repairs from a distance. They can have the tenants blowing all of themselves up. So when we call, when we do our outreach, we're not just a buyer there. We are here to solve problems. Who here has heard Pace Morby says that wholesaling is a game of solving problems? And when we're calling our absentee owner and our code violations, these are some of the most prevalent ones that they're going to be dealing with. They are just so sick and tired, and this is going to give us a higher likelihood of getting someone who says yes, they want to sell. The next one that we have is divorce plus high equity, because the data shows that over 50% of divorces involve shared real estate result in a sale within 12 months. And when you stack that with high equity, the probability increases significantly because the sale becomes the cleanest, most logical way to liquidate and divide the assets. Obviously, we all know that divorce lists are some of the best. Let's say some husband is divorcing his wife because she is cheating on him. Like, I gotta sell this house. We are going our separate ways. Divorces are expensive, and if each of the homeowners, the ex-married couple, all own it, the easiest way to split the assets is just by selling the home. These are people who want to sell fast. These are people who want to get rid of it because they fucking hate each other, and that's why they're getting divorced. But the most important part is the emotional urgency. Why? Price is negotiable, pain is not. The longer this goes on, the more that he hates his fucking ex-wife because she cheated on her, the more they want to sell. And the longer it goes on, the more likely that they just want to sell at a discount to get rid of the pain, to move on, to start paying for everything. Next that we have is probate plus absentee homeowner, because when we go to the data, when an heir lives out of state. So for those who don't know, probate is when someone who's the primary homeowner dies and then it gets inherited to XYZ. Let's say someone's dad dies and the dad lives in North Carolina, but the son lives in Washington, D.C. They're going to take on a property that is out of state. They might not be ready to be a homeowner. They might not be ready to go find a tenant. And when you combine the logistical nightmare with the emotions of someone dying, man, they just want to sell it. But don't get me wrong, these are not a clean deal where you can get someone who's in probate and then 2 days later you have a contract signed. It's a messy process. They got to get lawyers involved and be willing to have the long sales cycle to work them through. It's going to be a great deal. But also, there's an emotional detachment of the property, because when we go to normal homeowners and they want to sell their home, let's say they are in pre-foreclosure, they could have lived in the home for 10 years. They need to figure out where to go next. They got to talk to their mother, their father, their lawyer, their real estate agent. But when they're inheriting a property that has a high likelihood of them being out of state, they don't give two shits about the property, especially if it's not the property that they grew up in during their childhood, because every now and then you'll get someone who inherits their childhood property. Obviously there's some sentiment right there, but let's say they lived in childhood property. When the kids move out, they downsize, and then they eventually die. They don't give two fucking shits about that property, and they are just going to let it go. But also another challenge that comes with hitting this list is, like, if there are multiple people who inherit the property, it could be a brother and a sister, it could be two brothers and a sister. Sometimes working these deals in the acquisition side, it is really long, it is really messy, and you might not make the most amount of money. But when we're talking about doing our outbound, this is a great list to hit. Next, we have the tired landlord, which is absentee owner plus long-term ownership and low equity, because the data shows that landlord satisfaction drops significantly after the 10 to 12 mark due to maintenance fatigue. I don't know about you guys, but if you own any rental properties, and especially if you're managing it yourself, man, that is a bitch. You got maintenance, you got the tenant hitting you up. There are so many nightmares that even with a property manager, it's just like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So the next one is going to be bankruptcy plus tax lien, because the data shows that debtors that have co-occurring federal or state tax liens are twice as likely to be ordered by court to liquidate real estate assets in the presence of a bankruptcy trustee, and the IRS creates a legal and financial environment where fast cash sale is often required part of the process. You have outside external situations that are forcing them to sell. They can't put it on the market, wait for the right price. There is real things going on. They need to liquidate their assets to pay. So the last thing you want to do is owe Uncle Sam some money. So this is a great list to call. This one is for my on-market guys here, but expired listings plus high day on market plus price reductions is great list to hit if you're doing any on-market deals. Think about it. You've got someone who's had their property sold for 90 days. They want to sell. They've even dropped the price. Come on, please let me sell my property. And it's getting to the point where it's going to be taken off the market. There's not only a fundamental disconnect between the property condition and price and what retail buyers are willing to pay, but the seller just wants to sell. The agent probably doesn't want to work the deal anymore. They just want to get their commission check, where this is when us coming in, it's going to be super elite. But these types of deals typically don't have the biggest assignment fees. Why? When we go direct to seller, when we go off market, that's where we get the price discrepancies. But a real estate agent who's going to be the intermediary between deal, they want to sell for the highest price. Why? That's how they get paid, their commission. They're not going to take a 60-70% discount on it. But this is a good list to hit if you're doing any on-market deals, especially if you're doing texting right there, because realtors, they always want to respond. They always need to make the money. So the next is we have senior owner, someone who is 65 plus, and then we also have long-term ownership of 20 years plus deferred maintenance. Look, seniors are the number one likelihood of people wanting to sell right now. Why? They own majority of the homes, but also they're nearing retirement. And Social Security, depending on their situation, might only be paying them $1 to $2K per month, and majority of their asset or their net worth is within their home. So call the senior. Hey, you want to sell? You want to go move to Florida, enjoy retirement? Boom, that is our list. The second to last list that we have is vacant property plus tax delinquency, because a vacant property, especially if it's an investor, that is just losing the money every single month is 10 times more likely to be sold in an off-market transaction than an occupied property, because the owner's paying tax, insurance, security costs. And the beautiful things about these types of deals is you ever just get that home run deal that just falls into your lap, everything's perfect, and you make a nice 25K assignment fee on there. It's because there's no external things you have to worry about. You don't need to worry about coordinate showings. You don't need to be worried about where the tenant is going to find their next home. It's vacant. The homeowner is sick and tired of this shit. That is motivation right there, where we can take it off their hands. And the last one that we have is absentee plus foreclosure plus code violations. When we talk about motivation, when we talk about wanting to sell fast, this right here, albeit it is a smaller amount of lists, and not every single lead is going to be like that. When you get a hold of someone like this, they're going to want to sell. They're not going to care about price, because price is negotiable. Pain is not. They are absentee. They are God knows how far away. They're getting foreclosed on. There's violations. That is just someone who is sick and tired of dealing with these property, and they're more likely to let it go to the fucking bank than it is to find the right price. So you come in, you make them an offer really, really low. They're not going to care as much compared to some of these other ones.